Well, this will be probably the final update of this Sony ICF6800, which is now fully functional. There's been a few issues. It took about an hour to nut out why this thing wouldn't lock on the high side of the kilohertz tuner. It turned out that the transistor that I'd used to replace the main oscillator, main VCO, it wasn't outputting enough amplitude at the frequency it runs at on the low decade. As you can see, it's locking up perfectly now. In fact, our synthesizer is absolutely perfect. It locks up really quick, and is not causing any issues whatsoever. So I basically give it a quick, well, it wasn't a quick realignment by any means. The important thing with these synthesizers is to make sure that the correction voltage from the error amplifier, from the phase detector, is not bumping up against either power rail. And this is important to check, mainly because if you don't, if the oscillators drift slightly, well, they don't drift because they're actually locked to a reference, but the oscillator itself can still drift insofar as the correction voltage is required to stay within certain parameters. So what actually happens if you don't check this properly, you'll get these odd occasions where on a cold day the synthesizer will lose lock but work quite happily on a hot day, or vice versa. So just bear that in mind when you're doing these things. I also had another issue with the VFO. Hang on, I'll get some more. Oh, you might be able to see that. It was way off frequency, and because nobody's been in this thing to fiddle with it, as far as I can tell, I opted to replace all the frequency determining capacitors on the assumption that over time they've drifted. Well, it certainly seemed to be the case. It drifted up to, I think it was about 600 kilohertz. It's supposed to be a nominal 455. I've also, there's the components. We've got something in the end, about 18 transistors, a couple of caps, electrolytics out of the audio and power supplies, a couple of ceramic caps, an RF choke, and I've also noticed the meter is actually stuck half scale. These meters are weird. They sit at full scale and they actually work backwards. So I've got to check that out. What other issues did I have with this thing? No, that was about it really. So it's all tidied up and it's all ready to go back into its case. So this would probably be the final episode of this saga. So this particular radio now owes me about 6 hours, and other than the fact I need to do something with some lighting. So obviously all of the dial lights are burnt out, so what I'll probably do is sort out some LEDs. For these old things, older radios, I like using amber LEDs for lighting. They replicate the old incandescent bulbs quite happily and look a damn sight better. White LEDs look terrible, and blue LEDs equally as bad, in fact worse. Green LEDs, no. Amber LEDs are just right. So I'm not putting this into the case just yet. I'll check it out tonight when receptions improve. But as we've as you can hear.
Completely surprised by how much I liked that song. So, as we said, it samples the bass.
Your coarse feeds or your green feed.
She lived through the fire, the piano got broke.
It's a bit early in the evening for any AM to be coming through here. I live in a gully, so reception's pretty bad here at the best of times. And I really want to hear some single sideband on it.
For more information at www.watalk.org.
It's one of those crackpot bloody crackpot god stations. So we'll go to single sideband and see if we can find any ham activity. That beep beep noise is my inverter. I live off the grid, and when there's no current being drawn from the inverter, it pulses, waiting for me to turn something on. It's actually a really good inverter, that one. It's the only one I've owned that's lasted about, I don't know, 25 years, and it's never given me any trouble. No, there's nothing on there at all. Over amateurs. I might get another quick video tonight when reception improves. I also did replaced the narrow filter. Yeah, you can't see down there, it's a bit dim. I also replaced the narrow filter with something a little bit better. You can't go too narrow with these in the filters because the BFO is actually a free running BFO, and it will, with hot and cold days, it will actually drift enough out of the pass band of the filter to be a pain. Oh, and one other issue this thing's got as well, which I also hesitate to do anything about, the 10 meg reference crystal is about 500, as far as I can tell, it's about 500 kilohertz out. I'm putting this down to crystal aging. I don't know how much the average crystal ages, but knowing Sony in the day, the crystals they used in these would have been fairly mass-produced crystals, which wouldn't have had any great quality issue, you know, good quality as far as I can tell. So yes, it's quite normal. I did try packing it, fiddling with the capacitors in order to try and pull it, but no, it's not a good way to do it. So I'll probably end up just leaving that the way it is. Because it's not a communications receiver, it's only a domestic type shortwave radio. I'm probably being just a little bit fussy. But no, other than that, it's all back together. I may just have to do a bit of a tweak on the analog dial just to get it to line up with the digital. That's not a big issue. I've checked the audio amplifier stage. I've got exactly half rail voltage between the emitters of the output transistors. I just used any old thing I had here, so it's always worth to double check that. Normally if you're not half rail it'll still sound okay, it's just the fact that it'll go into asymmetrical clipping at high volumes, and that sounds absolutely terrible. The other thing too was the regulator transistor. That's that little bugger there. That had a fright, I think, with the wrong polarity. But yeah, that's all the parts. And this is the bane of servicing. We have there probably about $20 worth of parts maximum, and yet it's taken upwards of 6 hours in order to install them, remove these ones and install the replacements. And it's pretty hard to justify parts $20, labour 6 hours. This is the world of electronic servicing. a mechanic, I think, has a bit of time of it. Nobody minds forking out 6 hours labour if the parts were, say, $1,000. It's more in keeping. It makes a little bit more sense to the average customer, but no, I'm very happy with what I've achieved here. I had a feeling the set was worth repairing, and you know, the way this thing locks up, it's just absolutely perfect the way it locks up. It locks up within a millisecond, and it's probably as good as, if not better than, what Sony had it, simply because the transistors I've used are probably double again the ones Sony used. Is that because transistor manufacturing has improved over the years? I don't know. But no, I'm very, very pleased with that. Very pleased. So it was worth the effort. So I'll put this one back together, probably tomorrow now. But I just want to give it a run tonight and make sure it's got no other issues. And yeah, so there's the saga of the Sony 6800. So if you see one on an auction site, or you're going to buy one and the frequency display doesn't work on shortwave, this will give you some idea of just what's involved. Squirting contact cleaner into every gap you can find is not going to help it one iota. They may work once they warm up, but will fail again when they don't, when they cool down. You know, when you're servicing for a living, you have to make sure that the repairs that you do are lasting repairs, because it's not hard to get an unsatisfied customer, and they only talk about the mistakes or the bad things. So word of mouth can be a two-edged sword, unfortunately. However, this is a good repair. I'm very pleased with it, and so this will be the end of the Sony 6800 repair.